Okay, I was recording a whole lot of stuff without actually recording. Okay, so this video is to show my psychotropic, well, my restricted or kind of restricted and sort of monitored medications, which are Ritalin. I have two types of Ritalin. One's immediate release, and the other one's long-acting, or sometimes it's called sustained release. Depends what the pharmacist writes or the doctor prescribes. Now, the problem that I'm going to address a lot of the medical and other well-being, health and stuff, abuses that I've received while in custody. But this is not for that. This is just a stopgap for now. Now, as I've made abundantly clear, if I have any choice in the matter, I am going to die by my own hand before I will go back into the cells. Okay? And that is not a mental health problem. I don't have a mental health problem apart from the mental health problems that are secondary to very long-term abuse. And this abuse is inflicted now by the police. They've taken off the abuse. They've taken up the abuse campaign where Homeward Real Estate Limited left off. Now, and some of those officers are doing it deliberately. Some of those officers are doing it probably because they've been told things that aren't true about me. And of those ones who are doing it deliberately, no doubt some of them know that they're committing crimes, whereas there are others that I believe, because there is such poor training, I've had to explain pretty basic laws to police several times, including Senior Sergeant Julie Fifield. Very basic laws. And no, that's not me being arrogant. I'm sorry if police interpret that as being arrogant. That is a shit poor fucking attitude to being exposed for incompetence in your fucking job, upholding the fucking law, which is the one fucking job you have. Okay, I used to really trust police, and I just absolutely despise them now, and I'm really hoping that someone gives me some faith back. So, the medications I take are very important. Most of the medications that I take, when they come in the labelled containers, they're pretty easy to understand. Such as, I have two kinds of blood pressure medication. One is just one in the morning, the other one is one at night. That's easy. A cop can read off that label and understand what I can understand, what a pharmacist can understand, what a doctor can understand. What police don't understand is when it's more complicated and you are taking multiple quantities of the same medication, especially when it's a medication that they correctly flag as being potentially a medication of abuse. And I have two of those. I have clonazepam, which is a benzodiazepine, and then I have a very restricted medication, which is methylphenidate, which comes in the brand Ritalin, and I have two different kinds of Ritalin. I have the long-acting Ritalin, which is for during the day. It lasts for about 3 hours, and I take 40 milligrams of that up until about 2 p.m. And then I have 20 milligrams of immediate release Ritalin that I take in the evening. Okay, now the bearded guy on my 15 August arrest and night in the cells, which information says that they can find no record of. But there's certainly bloody records, because someone went to my pharmacist and picked my meds up. And there's also, I saw a judge and all that kind of thing. I don't know what's gone on there, but I've made another info request, hoping that perhaps a mistake was made, and that could well have been my mistake by giving the wrong reference number. But anyway, that arrest happened. It's undeniable. And I got disgusting treatment, but there was one person who was actually quite nice, and that was like the kind of lumberjack guy. I can't remember what his badge number was. I was trying to remember it because he was a real asshole last time on the 13th of September when I was arrested. Now, both of those arrests seemed to have disappeared into thin air. We'll see at the case review hearing if there's anything about them, but both times, firstly the magistrate and then the judge on the second one didn't endorse it. So I don't know really what this means, but certainly there was no evidence shown to me. It was not these were irregular arrests, these were unlawful charges, these were whatever. But the first time, on the 15th, these are two months I spent the night, and so it's quite important to get my meds properly sorted out, especially for the morning. Now, for some reason, police don't give coffee in the morning. That's fucking ridiculous. There's no excuse not to give coffee in the morning. It doesn't have to be hot. It doesn't have to be in a way that's going to, risk harming somebody. Coffee is just a normal bloody drug that virtually everybody in the West and the East drink, and it's just a staple in the morning, and it's just ridiculous to deprive prisoners of coffee when that's exactly the time that they need to be kind of focused and alert and on the ball for talking to the lawyer and then the judge or whatever, or following instructions. I mean, I feel like it's just sort of sabotaging patients. I don't see any reason that they wouldn't have coffee. I was told, no, it's a hot drink. And I'm like, well, it doesn't have to be a hot drink. The purpose of coffee is the caffeine, not the heat. And then they just came up with no excuse. And it's like, well, you could just give people fucking no-dose or something, like give people a chance. But if I can't have that, then I've at least got to have my fucking medications prescribed, dispensed properly to me. Now, police are not doctors, they are not nurses, and they are not pharmacists. And the utter, wildly egregious disrespect for, because in this case I'm a patient, to utterly just walk away when the patient is trying to explain how her medications are taken. Now, I'm always promised, because I've been arrested 5 times now, I've always been promised to see a nurse, and then when I get there, everyone's like, yeah, you're not going to see a nurse, so it's just fucking lies. And I'm going to go into all of this later. This is just about the medications. Now, this lumberjack kind of guy, black stab-proof vest guy behind the desk with the brown beard and stuff, he was really lovely on the 15th of August, and then this time he was an asshole. And so I did end up speaking to the nurse on duty, and I think her name was Anita, and she was like, listened to me, and she completely understood what I was saying because she understands. Now, the very, very, very nasty person who should not be in charge of vulnerable people, she is QS 31, very, very nasty person, very nasty, must not be in charge of vulnerable people, must not be. Now, Anita did her best. She said, I'm going off duty at 11. I have written a note for police to follow and for them to give to the nurse who takes over the shift. Now, in the morning, the nurse just backed up what the police said, supposedly. Well, that's what police said, I don't know, and I was just given the wrong dose again. Now, what this guy, the lumberjack guy, was doing was treating me like a fucking idiot. Now, I take 4 slow or prolonged or sustained released Ritalin a day, that's 40 milligrams. Now, most adults will take 40 milligrams and they will take it all at once in the morning. Now, the reason that I have mine in 10 milligrams, which is the kid dose, is because I am quite sensitive to medication and I need to stagger my dose, and that was approved by my doctor. And so they have now, because what I was doing was I was biting in half a 20 milligram pill, thinking that that's 10 mg slow release, and then after an hour I'd take another one. I just want to stagger it by an hour so I don't get a great big rush, okay? And then I don't get this complete, like it's horrible when it comes off. I just like to keep it really smooth, okay? I need it smoother than usual. Now, there is nothing unusual about an adult taking 40 milligrams of Ritalin in the morning. It is simply my choice, and my doctors explained to me that by biting in half a chalky tablet that's supposed to be a slow release effectively destroys the slow release mechanism, turns it into immediate release. So they've complied and given me these capsules that are usually given to kids. Now, Now, police don't cooperate with, they won't tolerate, staggered doses, which I'm going to look this up, and I'm not sure if it's legal or not for them to not tolerate giving patients their correct doses. But at any rate, I say, well, okay, then I will have them both now, because I'm supposed to take 4 before about 2 o'clock, and then in the evening, the reason that I need to finish by about 4 o'clock is because it wears off, 2 o'clock is it wears off about 5, and then at 6 o'clock I have 10 milligrams of the immediate release Ritalin, and then I wait an hour or two. It really is up to me. I'm allowed to. I'm a grown up. I've been taking this for 2.5 years now, and my doctors completely understand, there's no fucking problem with this. And unfortunately, as I tried to explain to these very unpleasant officers who can use power that has nothing to do with being right, it just has to do with having the might, can just walk away. And that's not fair. They won't even listen to me. They won't give me the respect of listening to me. Anita listened to me, and she understands perfectly what I'm saying. So, and with the example of the clonazepam, so it says take one, this is the old bottle, and I've had to spend an entire doctor's appointment for her to get that relabelled for the pharmacist in case this happens to me again, because police just read off the label and interpret things that aren't written. So this says take 3 times a day. That's literally what it says, 3 times a day. Now, there is no other information there. It just says 3 times a day. Police interpret it as 3 evenly spaced times a day. Police are not entitled to make that interpretation. And this lumberjack guy, who was originally nice, he treats me like an idiot, and he says, look at the label, and he talks to me like I'm slow. 3 times a day, that's what it says. And I say, I know that's what it says, but you are adding information to that label that doesn't exist. It is not a dosing schedule, it is a quantity that I take per day. Now, as I talked to Anita, and Anita, I think her name is Anita, the nurse, and she understood implicitly, because she, mental health nurse, she deals with psychotropic medications. Clonazepam, I used to be on lorazepam. Clonazepam is a long-acting benzodiazepine, and it lasts for about 8 hours in the system. Generally, it's taken BD, which means twice a day. So you'd have 1 in the morning and 1 at lunchtime. Now, there's no point in taking 1 in the evening, because you're going to be going to sleep, and it's not a sleep aid per se. And I have Ritalin for sleeping, because that's what it helps me with, the short release. That's why it's prescribed for the evening, cured my insomnia. I really do have ADHD. I don't get a buzz out of it like other people do. It doesn't keep me up. It's not like speed, for me anyway. And now I've got zopiclone, so the 4 times a day, it doesn't make any sense to give the even if the cops want to be real dickheads about it and say 4 times a day, can you please explain how that is over 4 evenly spaced over the entire day? Then what are you going to do with the short-acting stuff? And I ended up being in this ridiculous situation in which I had to take 2 short-acting Ritalin with 1 long-acting Ritalin at night time. It's like, that is so dumb, and that's too much, but I've got to take what I'm given or I'm going to miss out, right, on the medication that I need. So when you add, it's very unusual for someone to take more clonazepam than 2 a day. And the 3rd clonazepam wasn't made to give more time coverage, it was to give more intensity of coverage in the first part of the day, because the stress that I'm going through is so fucking intense that 1 wasn't enough. So it's increasing the dose, it's not increasing the time coverage. And so this guy who I thought was quite a nice guy went really unpleasant, talking to me like I'm a fucking idiot. I tell him it doesn't make any sense about clonazepam, it lasts for 8 hours, that's not how it works. And he says, I know how medications work, and then just slams the flap shut and walks off. He obviously doesn't know how medications work, because the nurse understood completely. It doesn't make any sense. Now, with the Ritalin, the same thing. He did the same thing, reading this, it says 4 times a day. And I said, I know it says 4 times a day. That is the quantity of medication. It is not a dosing schedule. So my GP, as I said, I had to have a whole appointment with her just so she could write instructions for police if I'm ever, if I don't kill myself quickly enough to avoid the cells again. So she's now changed it so police can actually read what it says without making ridiculous interpretations. Ritalin long-acting, take 2 capsules in the morning and 2 capsules at lunchtime. So that should clear up this very arrogant, unpleasant idea that I take 4 capsules at times that police officers think that I should take it, being not medical or pharmaceutical experts whatsoever. And then I had QS, when I said that I'd been promised to see a nurse, because I actually asked, and this is moving into territory that I was going to talk about later because I just wanted to talk about the dosing, but it's kind of on topic. I had to be extremely firm when I arrived, because the arresting officer, bloody 6 officers turned up to arrest me for something that doesn't appear to exist, and the judge didn't endorse. 6 police officers to turn up after I'd warned them, please, to not come here and freak the fucking shit out of me and my fucking neighbours, because we're all really vulnerable. We're all at the most vulnerable times of our lives. And as I've just been speaking to a woman when we were in the laundry at the same time, we're here. This is not respite. This is not a holiday where we can escape our worries. We are still in the middle of the worries that made us lose our fucking homes, okay? And we both have PTSD, and so she understood immediately. And it is not acceptable for police. If you need to arrest me, if you really need to arrest me, you can do it in a way that does not risk my having a fucking stroke, because that is a very, very, very real risk. And so I was being calm. I was even being a bit of a smart ass, to be honest, because, the circumstances called for it. They really did. I was just going, Jesus Christ. I mean, the hysteria, because it was hysterical. It was like, as I've been saying, it's like fucking raiding Pablo Escobar. Supposedly I threatened someone. Please, no, I didn't threaten anybody. No, I didn't. And yeah, I explained to my neighbours when I saw them later on one side. I said, did you notice my visit from police? And they said, yeah, we're wondering about that. And they said, well, we don't care. I think everyone's had their own experiences with lack of police support here. And I said, yeah, it was like 3 units, and the guy, who was quite a big guy, I suppose, he was just like, oh, you must be really hard to handle. Like, I'm 162 kilos and I'm 5'4". Like, I don't need, what the fuck, it is just pure intimidation, and it is a fucking waste of police resources. Why aren't you out there fucking getting criminals doing police work? I can't fucking believe it. And then they think they do these bloody welfare checks, which I'm like, I don't know if a knock on the door from police is a welfare check or an arrest, because they sound the fucking same and they have the same effect on me. Really, really bad fucking trigger. So as calm as I was being, because being calm, well, trying to put calm on myself, that's a skill that I've learned. I don't need mental health nurses to talk to. My coping skills are much more advanced than their training. I know how to self-soothe, but it's not enough to stop a cardiovascular event. And so the nephrologist who first prescribed the benzos in March last year, we were in a bit of a conundrum, because my blood pressure is generally good, and I take one blood pressure medication called lisinopril, just because it protects my transplant kidney, and I've been on that all the time with monitoring my blood pressure to make sure I don't get too low. And then with the stress that I was going under at the time, like, it would just sometimes go up and down. And so he added an extra low dose of another benzo blood pressure medication. It was I think it's a calcium channel blocker. And he was very hesitant to do that, and he was like, you just make sure, because I've got a blood pressure monitor at home, and he says, just measure your blood pressure, because we don't want to get you hypotensive, because hypotension you can stroke out on hypotension as well. So the benzos were sort of added PRN, which is, take as needed, basically to patch up those times where my blood pressure's getting out of control. Now, blood pressure can get out of control fairly safely for a period of time, but it's been 21 months now, and it's no longer okay. And I'm now reaping what has been sown by the predators. So I was very forceful with the officers, and the only reason they gave me any fucking respect to get my meds within what could possibly generously be interpreted as a timely manner, but they dragged their heels as long as they could, because that's what they do. It's exactly what they do in the cells. They come back with the medications, and then they still drag their heels in it, because that's what they want to do. They want to have power over you. But I said, if you don't get me my benzodiazepines, and I'm in this state of fight and flight, which is what everybody is a state, like, police need to get with the fucking program. Even if a criminal is even if an arrestee is genuinely a criminal, it doesn't mean that they don't, unless they're a psychopath, it doesn't mean that they don't have that cardiovascular system kind of excitement, which people stroke out over. Most strokes have been, it was documented that most strokes have occurred within 4 hours of an argument with a loved one or other upsetting event. And it's like, I'm sorry, but being violently arrested by police for no fucking reason when you've got PTSD is one of those things. And 4 hours and I could stroke out in the cell, and they turn my intercom off. It is repulsive. And so I need the fucking clonazepam, and I need 2 of them in the morning. Now, if police refuse to obey what I think are probably at the apex of a whole bunch of different laws, if police just really, the attitudes are disgraceful. They say I've got an attitude problem. My attitude is give me what I'm fucking entitled to under the Bill of Rights Act, you fucking monsters. And they think that's me being uppity. It's like, I know my rights and I need my rights because I might die in the cells, and that's the only reason that they comply, because they don't want me to die in the cells, because then it's a lot of paperwork, isn't it? And then IPCA might take a flick through it and come up with fucking nothing. But it's not, it's a lot of paperwork, right? And so I just, I had to, like, no, it's ridiculous to look at a label that says take 4 a day and to interpret that to mean 4 evenly spaced times a day, and to talk to the person who is experienced in taking her medications, who has been told how to take them by her doctor. The pharmacist is not the prescriber. The pharmacist has a very tiny amount where they can write, okay? It's not a diagnosis, it's not a regime, it's just a quantity, okay? It's not meant to be a fully fledged instructional document. Now I have a Medical Alert bracelet. Well, I have a Medical Alert account. I wrote to Medical Alert telling them, because twice in a row my Medical Alert bracelet's just been absolutely useless to me. One, when I tried to commit suicide, the day after, police turned me away trying to make a harassment complaint against Homewood Property Management staff, not Homewood Real Estate Limited, but the one that Caroline Register is pretending to represent. The day after that, and a few hours after, an incredibly abusive welfare check, like wildly abusive, that I'll go on to later. So I tried to kill myself, and I did survive, and I did spend 3 days asleep in hospital, and then I went back into Hill Morton as a voluntary patient, and it was voluntary because there was no cause to hold me under the Mental Health Act, because I don't have qualifying mental health disorders. It's not a psychiatric problem, it's a psychiatric impact. And so they were just trying to work with me to find me some help in the community, because police fucking won't help. Now, I forget what I was trying to say there, but like I'm not emotionally suicidal. I want to keep my life, but I'm looking ahead at what's ahead for me, and I'm seeing, like, it's just getting worse and worse and worse, and I'm seeing worse and worse in my life, and I don't want to die, but I can't cope with much more, and I certainly can't cope with much more of the same, let alone ramping up, okay? And I would quite happily die of a heart attack or a stroke in the cells. I would very happily do that. I feel like it's time to die, and I'm struggling to find the bravery to do it. If it would just happen naturally, that would be great, and I think police need to be implicated in this, because police are basically causing this, and I may well die in my 40s. I'm 46, I may well die in my 40s of cardiovascular disease or some other, like a brain neurodegenerative disease, because of what police have been standing by to and then doing to me. But what I don't want is to have a cardiovascular event that leaves me paralysed or even more incapacitated, and then probably gets a fucking beating or something from police for being non-compliant, because that's what police think everything is. Every time someone can't answer a question or is fucking freaking the fuck out, like, how dare police think that freaking out in a normal fucking time, an event to freak out. Let people just fucking calm down for a bit before you start fucking abusing them and taunting them. And it's disgraceful how the cell staff treat us, literally taunting, like Senior Sergeant Julie Fifield, whom I recognise now, like I've done that triangle confirmation thing. She was there. She was the one that I mentioned in the turtleneck behind the desk, and she was like, you're a psychiatric case, aren't you? What a nasty, nasty woman. What a nasty woman. It's like, I have just been, as this is my first arrest, I had just been assaulted by my neighbour. He called the police, lied to the police. The cops who turned up were fucking bent. Oh yes. Now, the offsider may not have been bent at the time, but he's a witness to what happened. Yes, I have two witnesses. I have Mitchell McLeish, and I have the offender, and I have the offsider. Now, those are both witnesses to what Helen Mullis did to me. They are hostile witnesses, but yes, there were witnesses, okay? So Helen Mullis is an uncontrolled sociopath, and which sociopaths tend to be, and her offsider has just gone along with his story after the fact, so he's an accessory after the fact, and he's just as culpable as she is. He's told lies. And when police alternate these abusive visits, to pin crimes on me that I didn't commit, and then they alternate them with welfare checks, it's like sometimes the people doing the welfare checks are lovely, but they don't even know why they're there. And I just get the same bullshit every time. Do you want to talk to a mental health nurse? And I've just started saying, no, I don't, unless by mental health nurse you mean human rights lawyer, because I'm sorry, mental health nurses don't deal with this kind of criminality. They're not, they don't deal with crimes in the community. That's your job, So, that's basically what I want to say. That's 31 minutes. You can listen to that. I've spent hours and hours and hours of my life detained in horrible conditions by police for things that I haven't done. Totally fucking innocent. Now, the only thing that I can take ownership was threatening, and you'll maybe find out that maybe if you look a bit closely, you'll see that I didn't actually threaten anybody, but I did just enough to get arrested. And it's not because I think police are going to do anything, but it's because police won't do anything. I wanted police to arrest me, charge me, and get me into the criminal justice system. Now, that doesn't mean that when I go into the court with Caroline Register, that one of us will emerge the victor, as in one of us will be vindicated. I am the victim. She is the fucking criminal who has been abusing me, almost inciting me to suicide. Very, very close, and I believe that's partly her intent. It's quite clear that she didn't stop once I made it clear to her that I was suicidal. She complained to the fucking tenancy tribunal adjudicator that my posting my suicide attempt online, which was just my attempt to feel like someone was watching over me because I had nobody. She felt personally victimised by that because I'd previously mentioned abuse committed by her and the others. For fuck's sake. She needs to be in the criminal court, and I know that if I'm found not guilty, it doesn't mean that she's going to be found guilty, but I've chosen a jury. I don't fucking care. I don't care if I'm found guilty or not. I just want to expose her, and even if the jury has to come up with a unanimous vote, there is going to be enough people who didn't agree with it and who have doubts and have a bit of a think about it next time. Like, who do you think the fucking victim is, for fuck's sake? Anyway, so if I can spend probably what is now a week of my life in cells being treated in ways that are totally outlawed by many of our laws, including those derived from compacts with the United Nations, then you can spend 35 minutes listening to this video. And if you don't want to listen to it and you don't get information out of it, I'm filing charging documents, and it doesn't matter what happens. At this point, I'm just a cluster bomb, and I'm just going to plant enough seeds around and about before I can't cope anymore and I die.